Hey everybody, welcome to another daily devotion. Good to have you with us. I am in the car, driving, actually in the pilot, driving back from a show in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, and I'm looking down at my little navigation system, and it says traffic for the next 48 minutes. So welcome to the road and the pleasures of the road. Okay, so I figured we could get a devotion in while I sit in this traffic, and we could just chat about a little verse from Colossians. Let me read it to you. Colossians, actually two verses, 3:23 and 24. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Jesus Christ. And a bit of an interesting thought today. Just thinking about that verse and what this is all about, and think on this. We were created in God's image, right? So our image is God's image. He gave us dominion over all the creatures on the earth, and that is a reference to Genesis 1:26 to 28. If you want to go check that out and read up on that, I encourage you to do so. Encouraging thought, right? We are created in God's image. Our image is God's image. Responsibility is a good thing, right? If He gave us dominion over all the creatures of the earth, we have responsibility. Even if we don't want responsibility, we got it, right? But it's good to have responsibility. It gives us a sense of purpose, a sense of doing, a sense of being. We are responsible for the planet, for the creatures on it. God has entrusted us with that. He feels as though we can be entrusted with this responsibility. Kind of a sobering slash humbling thought. So that kind of led to the question in my mind, what else can we be trusted with? Relationships, children, friends, jobs, lives, right? The list just goes on and on and on. So think about this in your own life. What are you entrusted with each day? What are you entrusted with at your job? What are you entrusted with at church? What are you entrusted with in your family? Like, what does all that look like? What small sphere of influence do you have dominion over? These are questions to kind of think about and questions to ponder. And in doing so, well, let me finish this devotion, then we can chat a little bit more about this. In all of the things in my life, my goal is to give God dominion over them. My life, my job, my kids, my family, my ministry, all of it. To relinquish control and let God be the focal point of it all. I consider it an honor and a privilege to have all of these things in my life, an even bigger honor and privilege to be able to serve God with them. So the prayer in all of this was, God, let it all be yours. Let me serve wholeheartedly, giving it all for your glory. And so I look back on this question, like, what are you entrusted with every single day? And what small sphere of influence do you have dominion over? Good questions to think about, good questions to actually engage in. Not daily, but maybe once a week or once a month. Maybe stop and just say, how am I using my influence today? And what is it doing for other people? And, I look at what I do and the influence that I have, and I can only, good example. Last night, I was playing a show in Fitchburg, and this woman came up to me. Now, during the pandemic, if you don't know, if you're new to us, I had gone from live streaming once a week Monday nights to live streaming about 5 or 6 nights a week. And that was just my response and what I thought was my responsibility during the pandemic, to just kind of help people worship, basically. And I just did it just because it felt like the right thing to do. And I had nothing else to do. So I was chatting with this woman last night, and I spoke about this in the Green Room podcast. If you're not listening to the Green Room podcast, be sure to listen to it, because there's some good stuff in there. A quick commercial for the Green Room. It's basically me chatting about the show of that night after the show. What happened, what it was like, what stories do I have, what were people's reactions, what was the result of the show, all that kind of stuff. So check it out, the Green Room podcast with Dave Pettigrew on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on my website as well. And I think it's on Google. Anyway, so this woman comes up to me after the show last night, and she says, your live streams during the pandemic were amazing. And she said, the way that you worship, it just kind of reaches deep, deep down into my soul. And it just brings forth something that I didn't know was there. She said there were moments I would just be brought to tears during the worship. And my reaction to that was amazing. Like, how cool is that? That God could use what I do and how I do it to draw other people closer to Him through it, which is kind of an incredible thing to do. And so I she gave me that info, that compliment, and then I was driving back to the hotel last night. Excuse me, I'm so tired. And I said, I was talking to myself, and I was like, boy, and I've heard stories, aside from that one, I've heard a lot of people tell me about not only the live streams during the pandemic, but the live streams just in general, what happens on Monday nights and how important it is to them, and what people get out of these live streams and what it all looks like. And for me, it's just, I'm just kind of doing what I do. And, but it's kind of neat to know that God uses it in that way. So I'm looking at this verse, right? What can we be entrusted with? In my case, I feel like I'm entrusted with the ability to sing, lead worship, lead people closer to Jesus through worship, through, sometimes these Bible studies, these devotions, all that kind of stuff. And then I have this little sphere of influence on folks that tune into those live streams and those episodes, and that's kind of what I do with it, and it's a little part of who I am and what I do and how I use my talents. So I thought maybe it'd be cool to kind of so that's part of what I do. So just take a minute, think about what you do, like how do you reflect Jesus every day, and then just looking at this verse, whatever you do, whatever it is, at your job, at your church, in your family, in your friend circle, walk in the dog, I don't know, whatever you're doing, do it heartily, right? Work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. We're not doing it to get accolades from other people. We're doing it to serve the Father. And there's a bit of that is so anti-world when I think about that. It's so it's just anti-world. It's against what the world thinks. Like we are supposed to work so that we can please other men and make more money, right? Like that's, at least when I was in the corporate atmosphere, that was the goal. how do we make more money? We need to set this budget and then get it higher, and then the CEO and the CFO and the presidents of the company will come down and say, great job, and all this kind of stuff. And that's all well and good, and working is fine, but at the end of the day, just checking out Paul in Colossians, like, work for the Lord, don't work for men. Knowing that from the Lord you'll receive an inheritance from Him. That's a little different than getting an inheritance from the world. And so, just an interesting thought. And that's kind of what I was thinking about today. And so, when you serve, however you serve, what does that look like? What does it look like? And why? So the other motive, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and we were chatting about why we do what we do. Like as a pastor, why do you do what you do as a pastor? Why do you do what you do as a recording artist, a worship leader? Why do you do what you do as a barista, at Starbucks? Why do you do what you do? Fill in the blank. Why do you do it? One, okay, there's reality in the world. We need to make a living. We need to be able to afford where we live, food, rent, all that stuff. Yeah, I get it. But what's the bigger reason beyond that? And a bunch of my reason for doing what I do is, and I'm just self-analyzing myself in the presence of whoever's watching this video, but a lot of the reason that I do what I do is because I definitely want to see people experience Jesus through nights of worship. Good. That's a good goal. Last night, we got 8 kids sponsored, and we had a crowd of about 55 people there. So one of my main goals every time I go out is to see lives changed, whether that be through a relationship with Jesus or through somebody sponsoring a child and seeing a life get saved. Like, that's an incredible, incredible thing to see. And so a lot of my motivation, like people are like, how do you do what you do? Why do you do it? I'm just coming off of 85 shows in 5.5 months. Like, why on earth? Like, what are you doing? And a lot of the reason is because I actually just wrote a note to Holt the other day, and I said, can you give me a number of how many kids we got sponsored between May 1st and October 21st? And I'm hoping that it's it's over 100, 152, whatever number is. It's like, look how many lives we changed and affected through the efforts of myself and all of my partners, you guys in the membership of our ministry. So anyway, go check out Colossians 3. Read the whole chapter today maybe, and just think on what it is that you do and why do you do it. Maybe we'll title this devotion, Why Do You Do What You Do? What's your motivation? And our pride and our egos certainly get in the way. There's those words again. But think deeper than that. Think a little deeper than that. Okay, go check out Colossians 3. Good stuff in there. If you're not a member, go be a member. Here's my pitch for membership today. I said this on the Green Room podcast too, like the ultimate commercial for membership. Last night, I played this show, no guarantee. I had driven from Rocky Mount, North Carolina to Fitchburg, Massachusetts. About a 12-hour, 13-hour ride. No guarantee. I knew that we'd have a little bit of a good crowd there. And I just really like the pastor at this church. So we put it together, and I had no expectations. I was like, all right, let's see if we can maybe sell some merch, take a little bit of an offering, see what happens. And I walk out of there with 8 kids getting sponsored. And so I'm riding after the show, just driving after the show and thinking about that. And I'm like, would I drive 13 hours to see 8 kids get sponsored again? And the answer to that is 100%. And here's the reason why I knew I was going to be okay that night. It was because my members, the members inside of our membership, have my back. And because of you guys, the confidence that I have in you, if you're a member, that allowed me to go play the show. And together last night, we got 8 kids sponsored. Not me, not you, together. It was the partnership of our membership that got 8 kids sponsored. So I was amazed last night, and just thanked God for it. It was a beautiful thing. Okay, so that being said, head over to joindaysband.com and get involved. I mean, our lowest membership level is $10 a month. Spend $10 a month and help us get more kids sponsored. Help us save more lives. Right? That's really what it's about. Can you find $10 a month to do that? I think you can. If I were in your shoes, I'd be like, yeah, I got it. I can help you out. Gonna do it. All right. JoinDaysBand.com is where you got to go. Check it out. But today, Colossians 3:23 and 24. Why do you do what you do? Good stuff. All right. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.